Lost in all the new stadium discussion and possible relocation talks surrounding a potential White Sox sale is that there's actually good news in all of this. Let's discuss what it is on Locked On White Sox.
You are Locked On White Sox, your daily Chicago White Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, I'm your host, Todd Welter, a lifelong Sox fan and the site expert of SouthsideShowdown.com, part of the Fansided Network, and also I've covered Major League Baseball for outlets such as the Associated Press. And thanks for making Locked On White Sox your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure to hit the like button on today's episode, subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already, and also follow or subscribe to the show at wherever you get your podcasts. Well, the one thing that keeps getting lost in the recent news surrounding that the team possibly being for sale is you and I at least have a light at the end of the tunnel with Jerry Reinsdorf's ownership. And let's discuss that more in the first segment. Then, did you know Garrett Crochet's season is considered a comeback? Let's discuss that in the second segment. And it's Wednesday, so let's do a way back Wednesday around the time that the Sox did almost move in 1988 to Tampa. And you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Well, sell the team chance is a great way to voice your frustration toward an owner whose meddling and backward thinking led to the worst season in baseball history. It also feels like we have to chance sell the team because it feels like Jerry Reinsdorf's ownership will last forever. But you know what? It's potentially coming to an end because, he might be thinking, hey, it's time to cash out with that recent news in The Athletic. But of course, us Sox fans can't have nice things. As the moment that report came out that Jerry could be open to the idea of selling, Dave Stewart was rumored to be the buyer. And that sparked the relocation rumors with his ties to Nashville and Oakland. It also sparked that this is just nothing more than a leverage ploy by Jerry to get a publicly financed stadium in Chicago. But guess what? Missed in all this is you and I might not have to deal with the Reinsdorfs running the Sox much longer. That's the good news. There's light at the end of the tunnel. We might not have to deal with Jerry much longer. And this goes beyond Jerry leaving this world for a change in ownership. Sadly, his death is one way of getting out from him owning the team. He has instructed his heirs upon his, death that they are supposed to sell the team. But Jerry, and also it's sad because, one thing that I keep missing is it sounds like Jerry, the human being, is actually a good human being. It's just the business person that has made life, not great for us Sox fans. And, it is just sad that you have to be like, it's almost like the Blackhawks days with old man Wirtz, where things weren't going to get better until, old man Wirtz left this world. But the difference is the Wirtz family was going to keep the Sox. The Reinsdorf family has been, is not going to keep the Sox. And also, this goes beyond the rumblings that, Jerry is open to selling. He made a wisecrack rumbling to John Heyman once about, hey, make me an offer when the last time this kind of popped up. But it's because he might be finally seeing the light and realize it's time to cash out. He might finally be seeing that the baseball economic environment that he's, pushed back against is not gonna change to his, is not gonna bend to his whim. And that the RSN environment is no longer going to bring him in the cash that he's used to. But either way, no matter how this shakes out, you and I finally have a light at the end of the tunnel. If they do relocate, yeah, that's terrible. But if they stay, then hey, this is definitely the light at the end of the tunnel. We might not have to endure Jerry Reinsdorf's ownership much longer. And think about what you and I have endured since the championship parade in 2005 under Jerry's watch. He stood by while Kenny Williams and Ozzie Guillen feuded and the championship team spiraled out of contention. Not enough was done to basically get the Sox to repeat. Yes, they brought in Jim Thome, but that was about it. Then there was the team operating like 2005 up until 2023. Totally being behind the times, backwards thinking, not embracing data and analytics. There was also the who the heck was in charge of the White Sox once Kenny Williams kicked himself upstairs. Was it Rick Hahn? Was it still Kenny? Was it Jerry? And then he brings in Tony La Russa. There was the embarrassment of watching this contention window. slam shut way too soon. And now Jerry Reinsdorf is in an environment where the RSN business model is broken beyond repair. The grift is over. As, these cable providers like Comcast, YouTube TV, pretty much all the providers are realizing they don't want to pass on the cost of expensive TV deals that RSNs carry. Because, as Jerry admitted, if you get even on the basic package, everybody's paying for the RSN that maybe only a select few are going to want to watch. And they're wising up to that. The RSN grift is over. And think about it. YouTube TV wants nothing to do with his new sports channel. Comcast is not even willing to accept the reportedly 2 discounted offers that the CHSN president has said that they've made, that they're not even like countering an offer or saying, sure, sounds good. And now he has a commissioner realizing, let's nationalize the game. Let's stop focusing on the RSNs and regionalizing the game. Let's nationalize it, because guess what? There's more money there. The NBA is thriving while MLB is about to have a labor, basically bloodbath. And also, I think it's, why Jerry's probably embracing that it's maybe time to leave is he's not going to get a sweetheart deal from the state for a shiny new stadium. Governor J.B. Pritzker came out again saying, no, we're not giving public money for a new stadium. We may give for infrastructure, and that makes sense. And also, as each offseason passes, more players keep getting 9-figure deals. And while the upcoming labor battle might destroy the game, I would not expect to see those deals go away anytime soon. And once the Athletics settle into Vegas, it's just a matter of time before that team spends that type of cash. And that leaves the White Sox then as the only team that would have never given out a premium deal. And again, that sets up the prime environment for Jerry to just accept it as time to sell, time to cash out. And that is the light at the end of the tunnel, that the empire has ended. And now the emperor is thinking, maybe looking around, maybe thinking it's time to abdicate. Because it did seem like, man, this guy's ownership is going to go on forever. When will it end? That's one of the reasons why it was sell the team chance. Get out of here. You're not the owner for this time. And why keep owning it? Because you want to make things, because you don't play bridge and you don't golf? Well, you learn. But the problem is, obviously, we still have to wait for it. And, because we're going to have to wait for the best offers to roll in. And at least the follow-up quick reporting is some of the rich players in Chicago might be willing to entertain making Jerry an offer. And for that to end perfectly, that's what we need. Is you and I need somebody, some of these Chicago billionaires to say, you know what, it's better to stay in Chicago than say go to Nashville. Although, as I've kept saying, and I've come to believe, I don't think Nashville is going to happen. I do think that's a leverage ploy, because it just makes too much financial sense for Major League Baseball to say, let's relocate there. That's a prime relocation. I mean, not slowly relocate there. Sorry. That's a prime expansion market. It's a growing city, but it's a tourist city. So one of the, take a page out of the Vegas Golden Knights and what the NHL did, put an organic team there and take $2 billion from them instead of what I think it's like $200 million relocation fee. Take like the $2-3 billion expansion fee. But just, you have to remember, when the expansion musical chairs ends, because I do think that's going to happen, what are the other cities going to do that got left out in the cold? But, you can see that when they talk about this relocation, that did put this dark cloud over it, that I think that was missed, that might finally be over. We might not finally have to deal with Jerry much longer. And staying in Chicago does make sense, again, beyond being a rich person owning an elite status symbol in the third biggest market. I mean, there's a chance to build a new neighborhood, a posh neighborhood with a great view on the 78. And while the next owner might have to pay for the stadium him or herself, there's a potential partner in the Chicago Fire to share the costs. However, the Fire might say screw it and pay for their field sooner. They might just take over the 78. But Related Midwest, the developer, wants both. So there's a good advocate to make sure both projects get built. And again, J.B. Pritzker admitted that he's willing to entertain infrastructure funding around the park. And that's about all the taxpayers should be asked for. Road expansions or CTA stops, fine. Extending more debt so Jerry can build his $1.9 billion legacy is not. And a new stadium obviously can be built in Nashville or any other cities that get left out in the cold. But with the political environment, for example, in Nashville changing, any owner would face the same environment there. So that's why I wouldn't worry too much about Nashville. See what the other cities that get left out in the cold might be willing to do. But again, the political environment for any publicly funding stadium is getting less and less by the day. But however this final result turns out, at least you and I know the Reinsdorfs likely will not be part of it. Can't say the same for the Bulls. Didn't know Garrett Crochet made a comeback, but that is an award he's in the running for. So let's discuss that next on Locked On White Sox. Hey, NFL fans, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. And you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. The traditional spreads, money lines, and over and unders are always fun to play on FanDuel, but it's the props, parlays, and futures where you can really hit it big. The Chicago Blackhawks are off to a decent start this season, although they lost last night. But their chances of making the playoffs might not seem great. But if you want to be a diehard with the hope that they'll make the postseason, the last I checked, it's still at plus 870. The Bears beating the Commanders by 14 or more on Sunday at last check is still at plus 500. So $10 on that, and it hits. You just made $50. Still some good lines on NBA championship winners. The Celtics, at my last check, are FanDuel's favorite, and even then, plus 310. So say that hits, triple your money. Say you're a homer like me, think that the Bucks can come back and reclaim the crown, plus 1,400 there. That's FanDuel.com. Welcome back into Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, make sure to hit the like button on today's episode and subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox if you've not done so already. And if you can't catch the show on YouTube, Locked On White Sox is available on all major podcast platforms, so make sure to follow or subscribe on places such as Apple and Spotify. Either way, get your 30-minute fix of Chicago White Sox baseball venting with me. And also, quick programming note, CHGO White Sox podcast host Sean Anderson was supposed to join me today, but he got sick. Hopefully he's feeling better. We're going to try to reschedule to either get him on either tomorrow or Friday. Otherwise, hopefully next week, because really want to talk some White Sox baseball with Sean. All right, so the one thing forgotten in Garrett Crochet's All-Star season is I guess it qualifies as a comeback. I mean, I didn't know it could be considered a comeback from being a left-handed reliever in 2021 to an ace starter, but that is what the MLBPA is considering it. Crochet was nominated for the Players Association AL Comeback Player of the Year, and I get it. He sort of meets the comeback criteria since he missed all of the 2022 season with Tommy John, and he barely pitched in 2023, but he did not exactly come back and regain being a high leverage fireballer out of the pen. He became so much more. He became an ace, the face of the Sox franchise. And while that might not be saying much, considering it's more of the Sox current state, not his performance, that's still pretty impressive to go from a high leverage reliever 3 years ago to the face of the franchise. And he's also become a draw. You want to watch this guy pitch. This isn't a comeback. This is establishing something. And I guess this is me being semantics police, and I hate being semantics police, but I believe comeback player nomination shortchanges what he did this season. And he was the only true value player the Sox had with a 4.7 F4. And he did it with a second half in a pitch limit inning, or second half pitch limit. He only threw 4 innings, basically at the start of July. And had he not been on that limit, he would have qualified for top 10 in F4 among starting pitchers. He had a 3.58 ERA, 2.69 FIP, 209 strikeouts, and that's in the top 10 in the league, 209 strikeouts. And ask yourself, when the idea of him being a starting pitcher was brought up last offseason, probably only Garrett Crochet knew that he would be this good. I mean, did you think he was going to be this good? I didn't. I wrote about it on SouthsideShowdown.com how I was dreading the starting rotation. I thought it was going to be awful. And it turns out the starting rotation was the one problem that the Sox didn't have. This is a guy who threw 73 innings in 3 seasons before this year. And he hadn't started since college. So becoming an ace was the last thing on anyone's mind. I think everybody was like, can he just get through a season? Is he going to be healthy? Is he going to be effective? Is he going to be Michael Kopech? And imagine if how things would have turned out had Crochet not been the only best case scenario turning out, because that's what happened. The absolute best case scenario turned out for Crochet and nothing else for any of the other players. That's one of the things that was just terrible about this season. Throw that on the Declaration of Independence size list of reasons why the Sox lost 121 games. Nothing panned out well for anyone on the roster. Well, Nicky Lopez did get nominated for a Gold Glove. Didn't really see that one coming either. But no one had a great season. And no one's best case scenario season turned out. I mean, it would have been great had Dominic Fletcher hit to match his fielding. It would have been amazing if Luis Robert Jr. went from, an amazing MVP season to, say, literally winning the MVP. Would have been hard. But instead, he was a shell of himself because of injuries and all this losing. And I mean, I get what the MLBPA is doing. He was good in 2021 in relief with a 2.82 ERA and a 1.27 whip. We forget that, he was a pretty good reliever before Tommy John. But that was during a different time in the franchise. The club was good, and he was being used in a very specific role. Now, he might be the anchor of the team's next great rotation or be leveraged to find the club some impact bats in a trade. That's not a comeback. That's a reinvention. That's literally where LL Cool J said, don't call it a comeback. I've been here for years, with the exception of, obviously, Garrett Crochet has not been here for years. But I guess, it's just like, did they think that, okay, we can only have 3 nominees, and the nominees that they gave for outstanding pitcher, they couldn't fit Garrett Crochet into. So it's like, well, we got to find one way to possibly recognize him. Comeback player of the year. There we go. I just, hey, something that, again, was overlooked. I think that's the theme of today's show. What's been overlooked? Well, it is Wednesday. It's time to go way back. So let's go back to 1988 when the White Sox almost left Chicago for Tampa St. Pete. Next on Locked On White Sox. Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. With over 10 million members and billions of dollars in awarded winnings, Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 100 times your cash. Prize Picks invented the flex play, which means you can still cash out if your lineup isn't perfect. You can double your money even if one of your picks doesn't hit. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are fast, safe, and secure. When your picks hit, you can get your money in as quick as 15 minutes. Prize Picks is the best way to get action on sports in over 30 states, including Illinois, Wisconsin, and Indiana. So let's see. Fun, simple, easy concept to play with a chance to double my money if my picks hit. I can get my money quickly, too, and use it pretty much in any state in the Midwest. Sign me up. Sign up today and get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even need to win to receive the $50 bonus. It's guaranteed. Prize Picks also offers weekly promotions that can lead to big payouts like Taco Tuesday. Each Tuesday, Prize Pick discounts select player projections up to 25% to provide even more value for your lineups. Run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Welcome back to Locked On White Sox. I'm your host, Todd Welter. Again, shout out to all the everydayers, those that are loyal and, listen every day. Please make sure to hit the like button on today's episode. Leave a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Also recommend to your fellow Sox fans, friends, or baseball fan friends to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Locked On White Sox or wherever they get their podcasts, as the show is available on all major platforms. Yeah, I mean, I do love hearing actually from Sox fans. Also, feel free to email me, lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. I will reply. We can talk baseball. I love talking baseball as long as it doesn't get awkward between us. But I do love how, some, non-Sox fans listen to the show because they're like, man, is it that bad to be a White Sox fan? Yeah. Yes, it is. But as I said in the first segment, things could get better. Although, again, being a White Sox fan, there's always that dark cloud of, no, No, it can't. Like, hey, Jerry's going to sell the team. And they might possibly leave the south side of Chicago and Chicago in general. Great. It's like, hey, they finally fired Kenny Williams and Rick Hahn after all these years of running the team dysfunctionally. All right, we're going to get a new GM. And no, it's Chris Getz. That, as Bill Veek, however you want to say it, once said, to free any man of any form of penance, it's to be a Chicago White Sox fan. I think that's one of the reasons why I'm still a fan. Don't want to have to do all that penance. All right. As discussed, the possibility of the Sox leaving Chicago is actually nothing new in franchise history. I've highlighted that. Every Daters would have heard that at some point, that, it almost happened in the late 1960s when the team almost moved to Milwaukee after the Braves left Milwaukee County Stadium empty. Mid-70s, there was talk of the Sox moving. And it actually came pretty close in the late 1980s. But Illinois politics at its finest gave Jerry Reinsdorf his sweetheart deal for new Comiskey Park, now guaranteed right field. And there's a generation of Sox fans that were either too young, like me, to really remember what was going on, or there's also a generation of Sox fans that weren't even born yet. And that's why it's worth revisiting this on this week's Way Back Wednesday segment. So, on June 8th, 1988, the Florida legislature authorized $30 million, think about it for inflation at the time, to lure the Sox away from the South Side, as Jerry and Vice Chair Eddie Einhorn had grown tired of their team playing in the decaying Old Comiskey Park. And yeah, Old Comiskey Park, it was the first baseball park I ever went to. It had all that nostalgia, all that history. But towards the end of its run, it was getting pretty bad. It was falling apart. It was time for a new stadium. And, Tampa had already started construction of now Tropicana Field. And obviously the Tampa St. Pete area was looking for any team to fill it. There was rumors of the Minnesota Twins going there. After the Sox obviously stayed in Chicago, they came close to poaching the San Francisco Giants. They were trying to get any team to show up because expansion wasn't in the cards at that time. Obviously, they eventually filled it with the Tampa Bay Rays. And now Tropicana Field isn't even going to be, sadly isn't going to be available this year because of Hurricane Milton. But they were trying to get somebody to get into the stadium. They were trying to get baseball in Southwest Florida. And you had reports of George Steinbrenner lobbying. Jeb Bush, who was the Commerce Secretary of Florida at the time, was involved. He was espousing the economic benefits. I think he said it was going to create 300 jobs at the time on all this stuff. But Florida forgot this is Illinois, and you can never underestimate Illinois politics. And, I think, as I was reading through this, there was, I forgot who wrote it up, but said that even Big Jim Thompson, the governor at the time, suggested to Jerry, kind of float the idea that you're going to leave, and I'll get you that new stadium. And this is from Tampa Times writer Tom Zucco. This was back in 1995, reflecting how the Sox ended up staying in Chicago. This is what he writes. Even though few people went to White Sox games, we knew Chicago wanted to keep its team. It was a matter of civic pride. A radio station there sent hundreds of dirty White Sox to St. Petersburg as a form of protest. But Chicago and the state of Illinois were broke. They couldn't afford to buy books for their stadiums, much less baseball stadium. We also knew Reinsdorf and Einhorn were playing a high-stakes game of can you top this? But if you were around here back then, you probably didn't care. You just wanted a team, and the White Sox looked like the one. So on the night of June 30th, 1988, nearly every baseball fan in Tampa found a TV set and said a little prayer. The Illinois General Assembly faced a midnight deadline to pass a mammoth stadium package for the White Sox, a new $150 million Comiskey Park, $2 million a year in cash, free rent, and state purchase tickets if attendance is poor. By 11:55, the bill had passed the Senate, but it was 6 votes shy in the House. By 11:58, it was still 6 votes short. The Florida White Sox? The TV cameras were trained on an electric tailing board that showed which legislatures were holdout. Then the camera cut to Governor James Big Jim Thompson, a proponent of the bill. He was looking at the numbers and shaking his head. Several legislators broke into song, na 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 na, hey, 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 goodbye. The Florida White Sox. But Big Jim wasn't dead yet. He quickly made his way up and down the aisle, seeking the opponents. He stopped at a lawmaker's desk. chatted a few moments, shook hands, and moved down the row. What was Thompson telling these people? What was he promising them? Somebody stop that man. And then it was midnight. Time had run out on the people of Illinois. It was over, or at least we thought it was. Well, it was 12:04 a.m. in the rest of the Central Time Zone. The clock in Springfield showed 11:59. Apparently, there was a place like a Brigadoon where time stood still, or maybe it was the Central Twilight Zone. Actually, what happened was that House Majority Leader James McPike had turned off the clock so Thompson could have the time to twist a few arms, which he did within minutes. The required 6 legislators had switched their votes. It was Representative Jim Strange, a Republican from suburban Oak Brook, who put the bill over the top. Quote, "Mr. Speaker, I changed my vote from no to aye," Strange said. Then McPike made the announcement. "There are 60 ayes and 55 noes," he said. "The bill here is hereby declared passed." Later, Thompson explained what had happened. Quote, "The law is pretty clear," he said. "When the speaker says what time it is, that's what time it is." End quote. I mean, talk about some Illinois politics. Just going up and down, horse trading, twisting some arms. But the reason why I bring this up, too, is the state now is still in bad financial shape again. Only this time, I don't see the governor going up and down the rows, horse trading. And nor do I think, JB has the same sway that Big Jim Thompson had. Also, JB's not a Sox fan. Big Jim was. And that's why it's foolish for the Sox and whoever owns the team to take this full funding approach. Go for the infrastructure. The governor has floated that, he kind of said it yesterday in his quote, in his comments. We support infrastructure. Obviously it's going to be more than putting a light pole in, but he has hinted we'll help you with the infrastructure. And maybe the 78th, there's talk of piping and that might, I don't know if JB's going to go for that because there might be a lot of sewer and water stuff that has to be put in. But, roads, that type of stuff, he's open to. So go that route and find a way to privately fund the ballpark because most cities are going to probably have the same demand, especially the rumored potential relocation destination in Nashville. Well, that wraps up this edition of Locked On White Sox. Thank you for making Locked On White Sox your first listen today. For your second listen, find Locked On MLB. Baseball guru Sully brings a daily blend of humor and baseball, keeping you updated on every aspect of the playoff picture. Find Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And I'll be back tomorrow to discuss how the Yankees and Dodgers owe the Sox a big thank you. Feel free to leave comments about today's topics regarding the light at the end of the tunnel of enduring Jerry Reinsdorf's ownership, Garrett Crochet being more than a comeback player, and way back Wednesday. You can leave them at the episode page on YouTube, X, formerly Twitter, at ToddJDub or at Locked On Sox, or you can email me at lockedonwhitesox@gmail.com. Have a great day. I'll see you tomorrow.